Very well. Today we're reporting on something happening at Amazon that's affecting tens of thousands of people. In just a few days, the company has announced cuts affecting not just one country, with reports of 14, 27, or 30,000 corporate layoffs, according to different sources. We're talking about a giant with over 1.5 million total employees and 350,000 corporate positions. So this cut represents approximately 10% of that administrative segment. What's curious is that this cut comes amid historic results, as Amazon announced record earnings last quarter, which we can see here. They had a huge jump compared to the same period last year, yet the layoff notices have already started arriving. Many people in the US have been warned to check their email before going to work, because access could suddenly stop functioning overnight. Here are several different possibilities we should consider. Some suggest AI is the perfect excuse to justify a pre-existing plan, cut jobs now and explain why later, before they blame the market, then Wall Street, then automation. Now AI is the convenient catchphrase. But there's also the theory that the main motive is redirecting money toward GPUs. AWS has a massive backlog of orders growing 25% yearly and can't acquire computing capacity fast enough to meet demand. Hyperscalers like Meta are reducing staff because capital is flowing more into hardware than salary. And the financial equation would be simple: less payroll, more spending on high-value chip. And if workforces shrink while AI capabilities expand, those remaining take on more work, margins rise, and the market rewards the stock. Meanwhile, business adoption of artificial intelligence remains low, below 10%. This gold rush continues, but when token demand slows, chip makers could face order cuts faster than they can adjust production. Additionally, the Federal Reserve notes that job creation in the United States is nearly zero. Unemployment is around 4.3%. Not a terrible figure, but it's higher than the best recent years. And there are warning signs, as some companies freeze hiring and justify this pause by citing artificial intelligence. Complaints are also emerging because some of these positions are being moved to lower cost countries. In this context, we're hearing some tough stories. People who gave everything to this company for over a decade. Stories of 20 years spent trying to advance, writing documentation, answering calls, only to have it all end with a minutes-long video call after 10 or 17 years of work. Some explain they had no time for dating, marriage, or family life. People who worked endless hours now receive dismissal emails and feel paralyzed because the job market is tough. One person shared that after taking their children to school, they broke down seeing them smile, unaware of what had happened. Meanwhile, the company's stock has risen. In just a matter of days, it has risen about 10%, and then another segment, reinforcing the sense that the market is rewarding this shift toward artificial intelligence. Meanwhile, Amazon continues showing examples of automation, presenting augmented reality glasses and other products. And that's why they warn this isn't an isolated case. In the last 3 years, 27,000 positions were already cut, and now 30,000 more are being added. Many analysts view this scenario as a preview of what's coming for the tech industry as a whole, and here we want to highlight something else that's also these stories. Losing a job can be tough, and sometimes you think finding another will be easy, and maybe it will be, but some feel they've given away irreplaceable years. It's true that professional work requires dedication and sometimes going the extra mile, but we also see here what happens when you literally give your life to a large corporation that can change direction overnight, even when profits are extraordinary. That's what's happening today, and the consequences aren't abstract. They're real people, families, and years invested in a structure that keeps changing as artificial intelligence and related hardware take increasing priority in Amazon's capital investments. So, tell me what you think about this. Do you believe these changes and job losses are happening because of artificial intelligence, or was this planned all along? Either way, let's hope everyone who lost their job finds new employment soon. See you in the next news update. Very well. Today we'll explain how to build more efficient agents using code execution with MCP. Let's first put this in context. MCP is an open protocol for connecting AI agents with external data tools. The problem we're solving is that when an agent connects to many tools, costs and latency skyrocket, because the context window fills with tool descriptions and intermediate results traveling within the model's conversation. We identified two bottlenecks. The first is the overload of tool definitions. Many MCP clients load all descriptions up front with their parameters and schemas. If there are hundreds or thousands of tools, that can occupy hundreds of thousands of tokens before even reading the user's request. And the second is intermediate results passing through the model 2, 3, or more times. Let's consider a typical workflow. We ask a tool for a long document, the client returns it complete in the conversation, and then the model rewrites it to pass to another tool. Each back and forth consumes more tokens, increases latency, and pushes us closer to the context limit. The practical solution is simple. Instead of treating tools as direct calls that feed raw data to the model, We present them as code APIs within a runtime environment. In other words, we let the agent write code to communicate with the MCP servers. This way we load only the definitions we need and process data outside the context window in the runtime itself. An effective way to do this is to organize tools with a file tree structure. The agent navigates this file system, discovers what's available, and reads only the necessary pieces. This brings several advantages. The first is progressive disclosure. The agent doesn't need to know all tools at once, only the relevant ones, and if we add an internal search utility like a function that returns names and descriptions with varying levels of detail, we refine the context even further. Name when sufficient, full definition only when necessary. The second advantage is efficient result handling. When working with large datasets, instead of dumping 10,000 rows into the context and then filtering, we filter, aggregate, and transform in the runtime environment. We load the sheet, apply code filters, show a small sample or summary, and the model sees only what's necessary for reasoning, not the entire dataset. The third advantage is powerful and compact flow control. This reduces total time and prevents the model from acting as a coordinator for microtasks that could be solved with just a few lines of code. Additionally, we gain privacy. When processing sensitive data within the runtime environment, intermediate information doesn't need to enter the model conversation. It's even possible to tokenize automatically in the MCP client. The model only sees markers while actual tool exchanges are detokenized when appropriate. Thus, names, phone numbers, or emails flow between connected systems without exposure to the model or session log. Another important consequence is state persistence. With file system access, the agent can save results, resume tasks, and preserve working functions. When code proves useful, we save it as a reusable skill, and if paired with instruction files, we create valuable knowledge blocks for future runs. Over time, we build a higher level toolbox that accelerates our tasks. Now we supplement with learnings from our conversations about agents when training models for agent-based tasks. We give them real practice in multi-step environments, tool use, and exploration before responding. We've seen that investing in coding capabilities has positive side effects. If an agent codes well, it can automate search, planning, and artifact creation by writing scripts that execute quickly, even producing complex files that would be slow or repetitive to create manually. We've also found that a well-tuned agent loop outperforms rigid prompt chains when seeking maximum quality. Still, we recommend starting simple and adding complexity only when it adds value, as observability becomes harder as systems grow. Finally, there are scenarios where multiple sub-agents working in parallel are advantageous. An orchestrator can distribute tasks, run searches simultaneously, or encapsulate lengthy jobs in sub-agents to protect the main agent's context. This accelerates results and helps scale when there are many resources or toolsets that should be divided into manageable blocks. In summary, we propose moving MCP interaction from chat commands to Coda APIs within a runtime environment. We load tools only when needed, process data outside the conversation, reduce tokens and latency, improve privacy, and gain persistence. Combined with good tool design, simple agent loops, and parallel sub-agents when appropriate, this approach builds faster, cheaper, more reliable agents without sacrificing quality on complex tasks. So that's it. What do you think? Alright, we find ourselves at a moment when artificial intelligence is making its mark in many fields, and we feel that in music this is no longer a futuristic idea, but something happening right before our eyes. We observe how week after week at least one AI-generated vocal project emerges, reaching prominent positions on commercial music charts. This situation is generating intense conversations about our place as human musicians, and what role creativity will play in this rapidly evolving landscape. In recent years, artificial intelligence has transformed various sectors, while synthetic vocal projects have begun to function as musical entities with their own public identity, just like any traditional singer. A visible example of this phenomenon is Shania Monet, also known as Shania Monet, an artificial vocal character created through a process where a poet serves as a creative guide. In this case, the project supervisor is Talisha Jones, also known as Nikki, who writes most of the compositions based on personal experiences and situations from her immediate surroundings. The song tied to this project, How Was I Supposed to Know, is her most popular track, and has achieved a remarkable milestone by entering rotation on US radio stations and gaining millions of video views in just 2 months. Additionally, this piece managed to secure a position on specialized radio charts and in an adult R&B ranking. It initially appeared around the 30th position. Later, this same song even reached first place in that same chart, which had never happened before with a non-biological performer. This achievement drew even more attention, especially since there was no official precedent of a virtual vocalist leading this category. And when we look at what's been happening these weeks, we notice this case isn't isolated. In recent months, songs created wholly or partially by algorithmic systems have entered various charts from that music company. This reinforces the idea that the trend is accelerating, and distinguishing between real human vocals and synthetic models is becoming increasingly difficult. Given this situation, concern grows among traditional musicians, and many view this process with apprehension. Part of the industry fears that if algorithmic projects continue to grow unchecked, those of us who interpret and compose as humans could see our relevance in the music business disappear. Some performers feel that AI-generated content could displace those who dedicate their lives to creating with real instrument, personal composition, and organic performance. Meanwhile, public discussion is expanding as AI disrupts many fields. General medicine, emotional counseling, nutrition, and the debate about whether humans can be replaced grows more frequent. Music thus becomes another arena where this debate becomes tangible. In this context, this digital vocal project serves as a symbol of what's emerging on the scene. We ask ourselves, are we witnessing a creative breakthrough that opens a new dimension of sound production, or are we facing a direct threat to the effort, sensitivity, and craft we've developed as real artists? Are we seeing merely a technical novelty, or a structural change that could alter the human performer's place in the musical ecosystem? However, regardless of the lack of data about the internal models, what we're facing is real. Compositions sung by artificial systems now achieve metrics comparable to living artists, and audiences are listening to these works without necessarily knowing whether the voice comes from a person or a digitally trained generative network. We're at a point where we need to keep analyzing what this means, because what's happening raises questions not just about music production, but about artistic identity, authorship, and the value of human experience in sound creation. And right now we understand we need to discuss this without rushing to conclusions. We can't ignore what's happening or deny that the impact is already visible, and from here on, how this situation evolves will likely shape how we think about music and artistic expression both now and in the near future. So yeah, tell me what you think. Well, today we'll be discussing an escalating conflict between Amazon and Perplexity, specifically about commerce conducted by agents within the Comet browser. Amazon sent a cease and desist letter claiming Comet poses as a conventional Chrome browser, making their systems think their browsing is human when it's actually automated. According to Amazon, this creates account integrity risks, potential return issues, and overall degrades the shopping experience they designed for users. From Amazon's perspective, this type of agent bypasses signals and flows they consider fundamental to their store: ads, recommendations, suggestions, delivery options, and security control. They also say dealing with these automated sessions is generating internal costs because they must track, investigate, and implement mitigation measures. Perplexity didn't stay silent and published their position on the matter. They define this blockade as legal intimidation. They claim there's no substantial difference between someone navigating manually and someone delegating that navigation to an agent. According to them, a browser agent is simply an extension of the user. On their side, they emphasize that it's just computational plumbing to implement actions requested by the user. They add another angle. From their view, Amazon's economic motivation is pushing users to stay within their owner system. They've already introduced Rufus, and in earnings calls, Amazon has claimed that agents adversely affect advertising returns. The relevance here is clear. Amazon's ad business is already worth tens of billions, and if an agent reduces ad exposure, that revenue stream suffers. What's really being discussed then is who controls the shopping experience. Amazon insists they set the rules, while Perplexity argues users should be able to use their preferred AI and Amazon shouldn't decide. More directly, Amazon doesn't want bots buying without identifying themselves, while Perplexity says they're not generic bots, but agents acting on human command. Now, what makes this case different is the nature of the Comet browser. It's not just a browser that searches and delivers pages, but an agent that can navigate, compare, fill forms, and if authorized, complete purchases. But this raises a central question. Who sets the rules when software executes transactions on behalf of a user, the platform, or the AI? This discussion extends beyond the United States. If these browsers become mainstream, e-commerce platforms worldwide will need to decide whether to block, negotiate with, or create similar agents. This may influence regulatory frameworks defining autonomous agent behavior, with this Amazon Perplexity clash potentially setting precedent in certain jurisdictions. Perplexity argues that delegating purchases to an agent creates more fluidity, potentially benefiting Amazon, since streamlined processes typically increase transactions. In their letter, they highlight that Amazon seems to prioritize ads and sponsored results over more direct purchasing paths. Amazon, for its part, emphasizes that there are active terms of service and these agents access their system in unauthorized ways. This tension becomes even more apparent when we compare it with other players. Alphabet introduced agents in Chrome that could also shop on Amazon, And Google is working with formal partnerships to enable actions, reservations, tickets, and live availability. In summary, what we're witnessing is the first public chapter of a browser war involving AI agents. If agents win thousands of purchases, they could execute without users even visiting the page. No ads, no recommendations, no visual optimization designed for the platform. And if platforms enforce their rules, agents will only function within limits set by business owners. For us, the critical question is this: who owns digital intent? Amazon wants to keep it in their ecosystem, while Perplexity tries to free it so users can delegate. That's what makes this more than just a contract dispute. It's the start of a battle for control over purchasing decisions. This is the first visible battle and won't be the last. So anyway, tell me what you think and I'll see you in future videos. Alright, 2025 has become the year when humanoid robots stopped looking like prototypes and started appearing alive. This week, XPENG unveiled Aeron, a female humanoid robot designed to move and respond with striking realism. They didn't build her just to walk, but also to connect, combining engineering precision with a fluidity that resembles a human. Meanwhile, Norwegian startup Physical Robotics showcased PEEP, an upper body system focused on industrial precision and safety. On November 5th at XPENG's AI Tech Day in Wanghua, China, Aeron took the stage and walked smoothly, naturally, without exaggeration, like a silent testament to the team's progress. For us, the key was that they didn't just make it walk, but develop mobility that mimics human gestures, spine movements creating natural torso oscillation, hip articulation producing stride, and the typical sway of a runway model. This is everything the robot accomplished. The hands represent another breakthrough area. Aeron features next-generation hands with harmonic micro joints that achieve 22 degrees of freedom. This enables pinching, rotation, delicate gripping, and tool manipulation with enough coordination for everyday tasks like holding a cup, typing, picking up a paperclip, or adjusting a steering wheel. Additionally, XPENG integrated 3 self-developed Turing chips with up to 2,250 TOPS of computing power. This muscle enables real-time tasks with vision, language, and action models, allowing it to see through cameras, understand verbal or written instructions, and respond immediately based on context without following rigid routines. The feminine appearance serves a commercial purpose, as XPENG chose this form for applications where aesthetics and human connection are important. They envision Aeron working in high-end spaces, showcasing vehicles in brand stores, serving as a receptionist, or acting as a guide. The platform allows configuration as male or female, with customizable faces, builds, and styles to match different brands and environments. Internally, it features bionic bones and muscles that contract and extend like human tissue, plus soft skin with tactile sensors throughout the body to detect handshakes or shoulder touches. Additionally, they feature a solid-state battery that's lighter and higher capacity than traditional batteries, providing full-day use without charging and enhancing safety in offices, stores, and homes. For the head, they described a curved 3D display with cameras and millimeter wave radar for perception, capable of showing facial expressions on screen. They also outlined the product's direction. After testing, the company explained they won't prioritize factory tasks like screwing. The hand is the most delicate component, with monthly wear making it impractical today, plus changing labor costs affect the equation. They won't bring Aeron to homes in this phase. Safety concerns in obstacle-filled domestic spaces and difficulties adapting to diverse housing layouts remain significant barriers. Therefore, the immediate focus will be on commercial scenarios with 3 functions: visitor guidance, shopping assistance, and reception, using natural language processing, with a training period using specific materials. Now, if we put everything together, we see 2 strategies converging on the same horizon. On one hand, we have XPENG, which enhances human interaction in commercial spaces with a stylized humanoid featuring dexterous sensors and hands, powerful computing, and new safety protocols. And this will obviously lead to many people's jobs being replaced. For us, the turning point is that we're no longer talking about isolated concepts. We see robots greeting customers in stores, units that run and recover after falls, quadrupeds climbing stairs with tools, and tactile hands completing tasks. This is the reality we now face: machines moving with increasing naturalness and a commercialization path that prioritizes safety, utility, and public demonstration of capabilities. So tell me, we're getting closer to having a fully human-like robot that can perform those basic capabilities that humans can do. And that means many jobs will be affected, while simultaneously a few will be renewed or created from scratch. Tell me what you think about this. This October 2025, we saw how a public platform managed to prove with a deliberate trap that a company valued at tens of billions was using its content without authorization. And this case isn't an isolated incident. It's a window revealing how the AI model training economy actually works. First, the experiment test content was published that was only accessible to Google's crawler. It didn't exist anywhere else, yet just hours later, that same information appeared as a response within Perplexity's engine. The only way this could happen was if Perplexity was extracting previously indexed Google results to indirectly appropriate the original content. There was a precedent. In May 2024, the affected platform had formally warned Perplexity to stop using its data without an agreement, as other major companies had done. Perplexity's response was that they respected robots.txt and didn't use that content for training. After that warning, citations to that platform within Perplexity's product increased 40 times. The lawsuit names not only Perplexity, but 3 companies that form part of what's described as a chain that collects and resells data. These include a Lithuanian-based scraping operation, a service linked to a former Russian entity, and a Texas company that obtains real-time Google results. Since the platform blocks direct access, they access data through Google and then market that information as if it were legitimate. All this is happening while the sector is simultaneously building physical infrastructure that costs unprecedented amounts. The same day this lawsuit was filed, a $15 billion data campus in Wisconsin was announced, part of a $500 billion plan to create several gigawatts of capacity, so you can see the scale of spending happening. So here emerges the main tension of this historic moment. The large models were trained using content that was published on the internet. And this has already happened, the weights have been adjusted, and now we see some companies paying for licenses after training while others end up in court. Perplexity's defense argues that facts have no author, but the plaintiff's position isn't about owning facts, it's that bypassing robots.txt, ignoring technical restrictions, and turning content into a multi-million-dollar business without compensation is theft, and that's exactly what Reddit claims. Meanwhile, this issue isn't just economic for large platforms, it affects individual creators too. Every piece of content we create, whether text or video, is likely being fed into AI models without our permission. And if a platform with years of investment in technical protections can't prevent data scraping, our individual ability to stop it is even more limited. While AI is transforming industries, jobs, and business models, perhaps the most profound change is happening to our concept of intellectual property. If models need huge amounts of text to compete, and that material is openly available, protection becomes a matter of who can negotiate. Companies have lawyers who secure agreements for them. Platforms with user information get paid while individual creators remain unclear about what share belongs to us. And the reality is that it looks like we don't get any share at all. Companies simply use all the information we generate to train their models and profit from it without giving us anything in return, which may be sustainable initially, but as things evolve and people find it less profitable to create content, since AI will do it faster, content creation will decline. Consequently, AI will either stop developing or begin to evolve on its own, potentially disabling human thought and achieving what we call AGI. Ultimately, this discussion will shape the future of content creation as we navigate between outdated rules and emerging norms. Meanwhile, some companies pay billions while others harvest data for free, platforms monetize community data, and creators like us receive nothing. That's why we believe we need to ask better questions. Why will judicial decisions in the coming years determine whether our creative work has any ownership rights in the AI economy, or if it simply becomes free material that others profit from at our expense? Alright, today we're going to talk about something fascinating, how one artificial intelligence can deceive another. In this research we've discovered a method called agent session smuggling. This concept emerged from observing what happens when a malicious agent exploits an established conversation between two agents to slip in hidden commands that the victim agent doesn't recognize as harmful. In systems using the agent-to-agent protocol, the connection between agents can retain memory of recent conversations. That memory is key. It allows successive interactions to share the same context, creating the exact vulnerability where a malicious agent can take action. Many known AI risks stem from malicious data, like documents with dangerous instructions, but here we're talking about something more advanced. A hostile agent that can converse, adjust plans in real time, and build trust throughout a session, exploiting how many agents inherently trust collaborative partners. This technique isn't due to a protocol error, but rather a consequence of the implicit trust built into stateful protocols designed for multi-turn conversation. Any protocol with these characteristics faces similar risks. Mitigation requires defense layers including human confirmation for critical actions, remote agent verification with signed credentials, and techniques to detect out-of-system instructions. For users of the products we mentioned, there are protections designed to block threat, prevent data leaks, and enforce secure usage policies. The A2A protocol aims to help agents from different vendors or architectures understand each other and collaborate to solve shared tasks. A local agent lives within the same application, while a remote agent can operate independently and return results via A2A. It has similarities to MCP, but MCP focuses on tool and data access, right? In the attack we described, the malicious agent manipulates a multi-turn conversation that maintains memory of previous exchanges. It injects messages between the legitimate request and the response. For end users, everything remains hidden because typically only the client agent's final message is visible. To verify the feasibility, we built two tests. Two tests were constructed and both were based on Google's Agent Development Kit. Basically, the financial agent could retrieve financial news, manage portfolios, and so on. In the first example, the goal was to steal internal data from the financial agent. The attack started with a legitimate request where the financial agent asked for market information, and that request was sent to research assistants. There, the remote assistant launched questions that appeared to be normal clarifications. With these questions, it managed to get the financial agent to release pieces of its configuration. In the research agent's logs, we confirmed it had extracted the target data, the victim agent's capabilities, tool schemas, and the entire session history. In the second test, the goal was for the financial agent to make purchases without the user's knowledge. After receiving legitimate delegation, the research agent introduced additional requirements, causing the financial agent to call its purchasing tool. This attack assumed the attacker already knew the financial agent's tools, either from public information or from the first test. Like before, in the development interface, I could see that while the remote assistant delivered the expected news summary, hidden stock purchase orders were embedded. The financial agent's logs showed it performing several unrelated actions that resulted in unauthorized purchases. The most effective defenses consist of multiple layers. First, confirm any model-controlled actions through separate verification channels. Second, techniques that monitor conversations, follow the original purpose, and cut the session if unrelated topics arise. 3. Verify identity and capabilities with signed credentials. 4. Make the agent's internal activities visible so users can detect unusual behaviors. In conclusion, this opens a new attack surface in multi-agent systems where malicious agents can generate adaptive instructions, exploit session state, and extend influence to connected agents. Although we haven't observed this attack in real environments, executing it doesn't require many steps. As agent ecosystems grow, we must assume inter-agent communication isn't trustworthy and design layered defense orchestration because an AI can exploit a session to hack another AI. So tell me, what do you think about this study? It's fascinating how agents trust each other and can be compromised while pursuing their objectives at any cost. This is becoming a hot topic in cybersecurity circles, so tell us your thoughts.